Greetings from Tokyo. I'm Trip, and welcome to the Hammer of Wrath. This week, you and I are going to sponge paint some Space Marines and hide them in Tokyo. Let's go. Thanks for joining me in the studio. This week, you and I are going to sponge paint some Space Marines and then hide them all throughout Tokyo. If you follow any of the trends in hobbying YouTube, you might have noticed that recently almost everyone is doing a sponge painting video. Creators have discovered that these little makeup blenders make for an excellent way to apply base coats to a model and even do some basic shading and volumetrics. So today we're going to see how effective this really is. Now, normally during the introduction, I might take a few minutes to talk about some aspect of life in Japan, but seeing as how we're about to go out and hide 6 different Space Marine chapters throughout the wards of Tokyo, I'm just going to show you. So let's sponge paint some Marines and then head out into the city. This little gizmo is what all the fuss is about. It's a blending sponge, and you can find it in the makeup section of any dollar store anywhere. The first thing that we want to do is make sure that the edge we're going to use to apply the paint is a little bit damp. Not wet, but moist. This way it's going to help the paint flow a little better. Now, too wet and it's going to go into all the recesses and ruin the whole point of using the sponge. But if we keep it just moist enough and we apply a clean, even layer of paint, you can see it goes on relatively easy, and because of the shape of the sponge, it can't get into any of the nooks and crannies or crevices, so it leaves those, the primer coat, black. What that does then is sort of instantly create all the panel lines and separations that many painters spend hours and hours doing with oil washes and inks. Now, the downfall of the sponge is this. Look, due to its size, it can't get into some of the areas of the model. But there's actually a solution for this. In that same aisle where you bought the single sponge for $1, you're going to find a bag of these triangle-shaped sponges for $1 as well. There should be 25 or 30 of them per bag. And they're made out of exactly the same material. They're just cut in a much finer edge, and you can use that to get into the hard-to-reach places on particular models. In this case, I'm using a slightly lighter blue from the same paint range, and I'm just doing that from the top down to create the appearance of lighting and volumetrics. If you don't have a lighter value of blue, you can always just mix in a touch of white and then apply that along the top like we're doing here. In the end, we end up with really decent coverage over the model, some volumetric lighting, and all of our shadows and recesses are preserved. From here, it's just a matter of tackling the other details on the model. Things like the soft seal joints between the armor plates, the leather pouches that we see on the back, or the pistol holster along the hip. Once we've got our browns down, we'll go ahead and apply our golds as well. You can see that I've laid a brown base coat down anywhere I was going to put a gold. Once we've got our golds in, we can go ahead and do our flesh tones if we have a bare head. And once we're happy with that, we'll go ahead and apply our metallics to things like the exhaust ports on the power pack and the teeth along the blade of his chainsword. With all of our base coats done, it's just a matter of applying some washes to the details in order to get the model battle ready. Here I'm using Nuln Oil on the soft seals, and I'll use some Agrex Earthshade on the leather and gold. I've applied some texture paste to the base, and we've got ourselves a speed-painted Marine. Now, of course, this doesn't just work for Ultramarines, it can work for basically any chapter. Here, I'm going to do some Blood Ravens, and I've started with Mournfang Brown, and on top of that, I'm going to go ahead and lay down Gory Red from Vallejo. It's a sort of a more muted, deeper blood red, and as you can see, because this dries so quickly, you're able to apply multiple coats and allow the paint to build up. Here, I'm using Bloody Red from Vallejo along the top edges, again to create that sense of volume and light. Now, if you wondered if it works for metallics, yeah, no problem. Here, we're going to do a Minotaur. I'm just using Warp Lock Bronze from Games Workshop. We'll go ahead and apply that around the model in the same way, just building up layer after layer. And again, in those hard-to-reach spots, just use your triangle wedge sponges to get in there. Now, what's a scavenger hunt without a prize? I got the idea to create a secret video that could only be viewed if you scan a QR code on the bottom of the model. So I created a secret video, uploaded that as unlisted to YouTube, and generated a QR code that leads directly to that when you scan it with your phone. Now, I wanted this to be all weather. I couldn't just print it on paper because if the models are left out, the rain would probably ruin that. So I got the idea to 3D print the QR code. Now, fortunately, in Adobe Illustrator, you can use Live Trace and Extrude to create a dimensional STL file. I went ahead, brought that into my 3D modeling program, created a 32mm base, and then attached the 3D QR code to that, brought that into my slicing application, and printed those on my FDM printer. Now I've printed that in white so we can use the same sponging technique here to just very carefully get the raised edges of the QR code, allowing it to be scanned on a phone. We'll glue that to the bottom of the Marines, and we've got 6 different chapters ready to be hidden throughout the wards of Tokyo. Our first stop today is in Asakusa, which is on the eastern side of central Tokyo. It's a well-traveled tourist destination because of 2 major reasons. One of them is this massive Edo-style open-air marketplace that is bookended by massive gates, which of course sells overpriced tourist crap, but there is a bright spot in this, Asakusa Nakamise, which sells the best soft cream in Tokyo. Now, from any of the side alleys, you can see the second reason to come to Asakusa, Tokyo Sky Tree, the tallest structure in Japan and the 3rd tallest human-made structure in the world. The views from the top of the tower are absolutely mind-bending. But to save those that might be afraid of heights, we'll hide our imperial fist in this quiet alley that runs parallel to the main marketplace. Our next stop on our whirlwind tour of Tokyo is Akihabara, the mecca for all things nerd culture. Behind me, Yodobashi Camera, one of the most famous electronic chains in all of Japan, with the flagship store right here in central Tokyo. There are 10 floors of electronics, toys, and collectibles. Akihabara is the place to be if you're looking for anime-themed donuts and other sweet treats, or collectible gachapon that are so popular the machines need to be refilled twice a day. And what better place to hide our next Marine than near the Warhammer store and cafe, the central hub for all things Warhammer in Tokyo. Inside, you will find a stunning array of completed and themed tables to play on and fully finished armies on display. And what better chapter to hide near the Otaku Graceland than one from the chapter whose Primarch has an Eldari waifu. He watches over the cafe from across the street and wants for neither shade nor refreshment. Our next destination is Shibuya, famous for the Shibuya Scramble, a massive pedestrian crossing which sees over 1 million people a day, both Tokyo residents and visitors from all over the world. Shibuya is also home to the statue of Hachiko, a local landmark that has been a place to meet your friends for decades, so popular in fact that there are even signs indicating how to get out of the station and get to the statue. And like that famous bronze statue, here we leave our bronze Marine to guard over the busiest intersection in the world, tucked safely behind a navigational aid. Our next stop is Harajuku, more specifically Takeshita Street, world-renowned for its fashion boutiques with both vintage and modern apparel, and no shortage of the famous Harajuku crepe stands for a tasty treat. In my opinion, there's 2 reasons to come to Harajuku. 1, for the incredible people watching here, and 2, for the amazing tiny little Warhammer shop at the end of the row. And what better chapter than our stealthy, too cool to care goth Marine from the Raven Guard, who watches over the entrance of the store and passes silent judgment on all who enter. Our penultimate stop is in Shinjuku, just west of central Tokyo, and is home to many famous boutique shops and large luxury chains like Louis Vuitton and Rolex, and also the home of a world-famous meeting spot. 3D Cat Cross, a massive digital billboard that creates an illusion using a curved surface. Unfortunately, there's something about the refresh rate of that giant screen that my phone camera just didn't like. Here, we leave our intrepid Dark Angel to watch over his cat brethren, and in fact, he's hidden behind the lion's head, only a few steps from this crossing. For our final stop, I wanted to do something a little different. Up until this point, we visited a lot of heavily trafficked tourist areas within central Tokyo. But I wanted to end here in Nakano, or specifically Nakano Broadway, a massive indoor shopping plaza with discounts on everything from footwear to eyewear. Now, it's a single stop along the JR Chuo line, so only about 5 minutes from Shinjuku, but when it comes to tourist destinations, it's a bit off the beaten path, and you'll find mostly locals here. But the real reason I wanted to bring you here was this. At the end of the covered outdoor marketplace is a shabby old 4-story building from the Showa era that houses dozens of different boutique shops, including Mandarake, the granddaddy of all collectible shops within Tokyo. It's gotten so big that it's taken over 15 different storefronts across multiple floors in this mall, and each store specializes in something unique, like vintage toys, comic books and manga, vintage animation cells from actual productions, and my absolute favorite, this second-hand Warhammer store that sells new and used kits at a discounted price. Here, we leave our Marine from the Blood Ravens, the chapter known for collecting stuff, sometimes other people's stuff, so we leave him under the watchful eye of the law. Well, there you have it. 6 unique Space Marine chapters painted up using the increasingly popular and rapid sponge painting technique, and then hidden within central Tokyo for you to find. I hope you enjoyed the video. It was my genuine pleasure to make and share it with you, and also show you a bit of Tokyo. If you'd like to help the channel, like, comment, and subscribe, help drive us to the front page of YouTube, or perhaps go out and try and find one of those 6 Marines to see the unique video that is linked to the QR code underneath. Or you can always check out our Patreon linked in the description below. Joining our Patreon at any level grants you access to our private Discord server where like-minded hobbyists help each other out every day with honest and kind feedback. And of course, a special thanks to my Patreon members for choosing the chapters of the Marines that we painted this week. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one.